Bleeding purple and gold. From the heart of Los Angeles, this is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Welcome to the show. As always, we are brought to you by LakersNation.com and CLNS Media. Today's show is sponsored by MeUndies. Go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation for 20% off the most comfortable pair of underwear you will ever own. And ProFlowers. Go to ProFlowers.com, and when you check out, use the promo code LAKERS for 20% off all bouquets that are $29 or more. Again, that's ProFlowers.com. Use that promo code LAKERS at checkout. Well, we've got the Lakers currently on a 3-game losing streak. Unfortunately, they are on an East Coast road swing, and things have not gone all that well for them in terms of wins or losses, but we've had some other key developments, especially with a guy named Lonzo Ball. So we've got a ton to talk about today. I've brought in Lakers Nation lifestyle reporter Hannah Kulik to help me out. We're going to sort through everything. Hannah, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me.
And, before we jump into everything, I want to remind everyone to go to iTunes and make sure you subscribe, rate, and review this show. And if you want us to answer a question on here, all you got to do is ask the question in your review, and I'll make sure that we talk about it on air on our next show. So again, just subscribe, rate, and review this show. 5-star reviews are always appreciated, and leave your question in the review section, and we'll go ahead and discuss it on air. So Hannah, right now the Lakers are on a 3-game losing streak, but we know that Monday night they are going into Phoenix. In fact, by the time most people are listening to this, it's going to be Monday, or perhaps the Suns game will already be behind us. Hopefully it's a win. But they are on, as of this recording, a 3-game losing streak. How are you feeling about everything right now?
I think it's all just coming down to the Lakers getting a little sloppy with the basketball. I mean, as we saw last night or a couple nights ago against the Bucks, they had, I think, 21 turnovers. And that just can't be done, especially on the road. It just is unacceptable. And also just the really poor free throw shooting. We lost by 8 and we missed 15. So just do the math. If we would have just made, 9 more, we would have won the game. So we've got to get those two things under control. It's definitely frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the 3 teams that they've lost to. It's the Boston Celtics, the Washington Wizards, and the Milwaukee Bucks. And the Boston game, they battled back. And the Milwaukee game, they were right there. I felt like that was a game they should have won. They were playing a Milwaukee team that was road weary. They had just come back from a game against the San Antonio Spurs. So this was the second night of a back-to-back. Even though the Bucks were at home for this game, they were on the road the night before. They were in San Antonio. So this was a very, very winnable game. Like you said, a few more free throws here and there, a few less turnovers, and the Lakers win this thing. So, I mean, on the one hand, it's nice that they're so close to winning against these teams that are, I mean, these are teams that are expected to make the playoffs in the East. But at the same token, they're letting some wins slip away here, and that's got to be a little bit frustrating, especially when you're watching and you can spot all of the problems, but they seem so fixable, right? I mean, we see things that they can improve upon out there on the floor, and we wish it would be as easy as just snapping our fingers and suddenly they're shooting free throws better, but we just can't quite do that. So, Hannah, what do you think the team should focus on at this point in order to break this losing streak and get back in the win column?
Well, if I was Luke Walton, I would have those guys shooting free throws all day long, because just to miss all the free throws that they're missing, Brandon Ingram especially, he's been missing so many, and he gets the line a lot. And he's a guy, he's got to be able to knock down those free throws. So I would really be emphasizing the free throw shooting practice, and also just the turnovers, like I've said, and just the scoring overall. It's something that we kind of knew going into the season was going to be a struggle. We obviously don't have too many scorers, but our offense has really been struggling lately, which is why it's so important to get those turnovers and, make those free throws, because we got to get all the easy buckets when we can.
Yeah, you know what? That's a great point that the Lakers are dependent on forcing turnovers to some extent. I mean, they play at a lightning fast pace. They're actually right now, they've just dropped to the 4th fastest pace in the NBA. They're sitting just barely behind the Philadelphia 76ers. And so they want to get out and run whenever possible, because quite frankly, their half-court offense is bad. It's just not good. They're not efficient at all. So they've been playing at such a quick pace because they have to get out in transition and get easy buckets. You mentioned Ingram's free throw shooting. He's actually slightly improved from last year. He was 62% last season. This season he's at 65% if we round 65%. So that's a slight uptick, but it's more noticeable. As you mentioned, he's getting to the line like crazy. He's getting 5 free throws per game and only shooting 65% will definitely not get it done. So we definitely like to see Ingram hit. I mean, if he could hit 70%, at least that would make a difference from the line. And of course, we would love if he could eventually get up to about 80% or so, where he's a guy that you can really depend on to get up there and knock them down. Now, before we dive into all the statistics and everything like that and everything, I guess we don't want to bury the lead here. We want to talk a little bit about, at least a little bit, about what has been the main story in Lakers land. And that, of course, is Lonzo Ball becoming the youngest player ever to get a triple-double in NBA history. So, Hannah, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, how awesome of an accomplishment is this?
It's a pretty great accomplishment, and it just makes me happy because it shuts up all the Ball haters for a few minutes. I mean, I had just people coming at Twitter, from night one, just saying he's a bust, and I'm trying to say, you've got to relax. You have to, be patient with him. He's, his first year, he's only 19, or I think he's just turned 20 years old. You've got to be patient. And so finally for him to have a great game, get a triple-double, and not just get a triple-double, but also have 3 steals and 4 blocks, and just really do it all across the boards. It's definitely very exciting, and it's a very great accomplishment for him. But I was expecting it. I think you even called it. Did you say like the first 10 games, something like that?
Yeah, I was a little bit off. I said the first 10 games. He ended up doing it in the 13th game.
You were a little off, but still, you were pretty close, and that's amazing. So people have to realize that's a very, very great accomplishment. So I think all the Ball haters have to relax a little bit, and this will definitely shut them up for, at least a few games.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody has been jumping on Lonzo's case whether it's the national media or the trolls on Twitter have been jumping on Lonzo's case about his shooting. And that's an easy target because he is a funny looking shooter, right? I mean, when he shoots the ball, it looks strange. He doesn't, you would never teach someone to shoot the way Lonzo does. But this performance was one that he badly needed because he shot 7 of 12 from the field. He was really good from the field. He was 3 of 5 from 3. Had 11 rebounds, 13 assists, 3 steals, and here's what you don't normally see out of a guard: 4 blocks. 4 blocks. And I think that we don't talk enough about that number because everybody is so focused on Lonzo's offense, and rightfully so. I mean, when Lonzo came into the NBA, the talk was that he is this next level passer. He's the guy that's going to completely overhaul the offense. Guys are going to be getting easy looks because of him. But the negative about him was his defense. If you asked anybody what the downside was to Lonzo Ball, his defense was always one of the first things they brought up. And so far, I think defensively, he's actually been okay. I'm not saying he's a good defender at this point, but I think he's used his length really well. He recovers when he does get beat pretty well. And then because he is bigger for a point guard, he's 6'6", he can actually contest shots and get a lot of blocks. He's also really good at going back and getting defensive rebounds. So I think on that end of the floor, he's been better than we have anticipated. Would you agree with that?
I completely agree. That was actually something I wanted to mention, was that I've been impressed with his defense overall, just because people were, like you said, when he was coming into the season, were just saying he's not a great defender. And I haven't seen him do anything that's really been bad on defense. I think he tries really hard on defense. Like you said, he's bigger than most of the point guards he's going up against, so he's definitely able to use his size as an advantage. He's been getting steals every night, so I've been really impressed with his defense so far. It's not something that I'm worried about. It's just mainly his shooting, but I think that'll improve just with practice and with more time. And then once I feel like he starts getting his shooting under control a little bit better, I think we're going to see everything else in his game continue to rise, because I think what's been happening lately is because he's been struggling so much from shooting, I think it's affected his game overall in other parts. But I think just continue, and I think he's going to get much better.
Yeah, I mean, we know he's a better shooter than what he's shown so far. And in this game against the Milwaukee Bucks, he definitely showed that. He improved his shot selection quite a bit. He was hitting, everything that he needed to. So that was a nice positive development, and hopefully that's something that will continue, and it wasn't just one performance. So that's going to be the big thing for him, is developing that consistency, which, I mean, that's a challenge for any rookie. And going back to his defense, a lot of people point to plays like John Wall blowing past him and throwing down a lefty hammer dunk and everything. And that's going to happen because it's John Wall. I mean, the guy is lightning fast. So people point to that and say, oh, Lonzo's a terrible defender. No, you got to look at the whole picture. I think overall he has been a lot better than anyone would have guessed that he would be. I think that he does get lost sometimes. There was a play against the Bucks where he turned his head, Giannis Antetokounmpo snuck behind him and got an easy backdoor dunk. That can happen, but again, Lonzo's barely 20 years old. It's kind of it's part of the growing pain process of being a rookie in the NBA. And overall, I think you got to be pleased with what he's done out there. As far as the triple-double goes, I mean, hey, Magic Johnson said at his press conference that Lonzo Ball was going to set records. I mean, he asked Lonzo, please leave some of my Lakers records for me. He's expecting this kid to do great things. And now he has not a Lakers record, but in his first 13 games in the NBA, he now has an NBA record. Beat LeBron James by 5 games, the youngest player to ever record a triple-double. So, hey, I mean, we got to celebrate stuff like this because this Lakers team probably is not playoff bound. They're probably not going to have a ton of great victories this season or anything like that. So this is the kind of thing that we should really take a moment to appreciate because, you know, who knows what else we're going to have to celebrate as the season goes on. We can always look forward to the future. We can always look at how good the young guys are playing and things like that and project out. But for this season, you have to really kind of accentuate the things that do go right. And this night against the Bucks with Lonzo Ball certainly was one. Now, oh, go ahead, Hannah.
Oh, I was going to say, Trevor, what do you mean we're not going to sneak in that 8th spot?
I would love to. I would love to be the optimist and say, oh, yeah, we're definitely going to get that 8th seed. But it's the West. The Western Conference is absolutely insane. And we're going to talk about this in just a minute. But man, the Lakers' schedule next month looks just god-awful. Yeah. So that's something that we're going to have to dig into as well. Now, before we move on, because we do need to talk about some of these other guys, but I need to take just a moment here and talk about MeUndies. Now, every year, millions of people receive the least liked gift of all time during the holidays, and that is underwear. But we still just give that out. We still give out underwear as gifts, even though some people don't want it. But, you know, maybe it's not the fact that you're giving underwear that's the problem. It's the kind of underwear that you're giving. And that's where MeUndies comes in here, because this underwear actually makes for an incredible gift for the holidays. The MeUndies offers a soft, flexible waistband, which I know whenever I have a big dinner, that always helps out a ton. It's actually 3 times softer than cotton, which is very, very noticeable. And it's actually natural, sustainably sourced fiber, which is always a great thing. So MeUndies underwear does make the perfect gift for everyone, and everyone's going to love that you're giving that to them. So this year, don't give underwear, give MeUndies. And this holiday season, you can actually get an exclusive 20% off on the softest underwear and socks you will ever wear, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed just for being listeners of this show. All you got to do is go to MeUndies.com/LakersNation. Again, 20% off, free shipping, 100% satisfaction guarantee. This is a total no-brainer. Go check it out, MeUndies.com/LakersNation. So, Hannah, Lonzo was phenomenal, but the Lakers still lost. And Lonzo was one of the first ones to say, hey, you know, a triple-double doesn't mean all that much to me. I care more about wins because that's just Lonzo and that's his personality and everything. The Lakers do have an interesting schedule coming up, though. They've got some very winnable games here. We've got the Phoenix Suns Monday night. Then we've got the Philadelphia 76ers. That's going to be quite a showdown. Then again, Phoenix, then Denver, and they've got days off between all of these, so there's no back-to-backs there. Then we're playing Chicago. We've got them at home. This is a nice homestand here. And then when they finally go on the road for a back-to-the-back, it's at Sacramento, another winnable game. So after that, though, things start to get kind of tough. I mean, this next week and a half or so is going to be when the Lakers need to really rack up wins. So before we even get into how crazy December is, this next, November 13th through the 22nd, you've got Phoenix, Philly, Phoenix, Denver, Chicago, Sacramento. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games there that I would say are all winnable. Hannah, how many of those do you think the Lakers really need to win to give them a little bit of a cushion heading into December?
They need to try to win all of them, but if they can't win all of them, at least 4, because at least 4 out of the 6, I would say, because like you said, these are winnable games, and the Lakers have to be able to win these easier games because, like we've been saying, I mean, December just kind of sucks for them. So they're going to have to win all the ones they can.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, hey, a 6-game winning streak would be phenomenal. I'm just thinking for the team's confidence and everything after being on this 3-game losing streak. I'd agree with you. I think 4 out of 6 would be excellent. I would definitely take that. Now, starting November 27th, so it's not even into December. Here's their schedule. They've got, I mean, it's rough. It really is. They've got from November 27th through December 31st, we've got the Clippers twice, and the Clippers blew the Lakers out on opening night. We have 1, 2, 3 games against the Golden State Warriors. You've got 1, 2, 3 games against the Houston Rockets, a game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, another one on Christmas Day against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and then you also have some tough matchups with the Denver Nuggets on the road, so you're in Denver. That's always a tough place to go play. Okay, playing in Denver, not easy. Then they've got a road trip where they go at Charlotte, at New York. Now, at New York may be an easier game, but the Knicks have been playing pretty well. The Charlotte Hornets, of course, have Dwight Howard right now, so he may be extra motivated for that game. They also have the Portland Trail Blazers, the Memphis Grizzlies. So my point is that there's a month of basically no gimme games. I mean, the Knicks might be the weakest team on their schedule here. And that's it. I mean, there's just no let up in this month of December. So with all that being said, what does the team need to do to get ready for this long, brutal month before the schedule starts to let up a little bit in January?
Oh gosh, that just is a brutal schedule. I'm
I know,
trying to
right?
get over that. That just my heart's pounding a little bit after hearing all those games. December is going to be a rough month, but you know what? The Lakers have to be able to stop with the turnovers, because it's all going to come down to if they can stop being sloppy with the basketball and give themselves the best opportunities to get a good basket or to even just get a good look against these teams. It's definitely going to be very interesting, and it's going to be a nice test for the Lakers because these are all not only good teams, but the top teams. So it's going to be interesting to see how they can hold up against them. I'm a little nervous, but I think if they're able to just limit the turnovers, hopefully we can find some sort of magic pill to get their free throws to start going in and be more effective and on offense. It's going to all come down to that. Because right now on defense, I'm not super worried about them. I mean, they can obviously always improve on defense, but I haven't been super disappointed with them on defense right now. I just think it's the turnovers, the free throw shooting, and the offense that really needs a lot of work.
Yeah, you know what? It's also the 3-point shooting. I think we should throw that one in there too, because they are dead last in the NBA. Last I looked, which was yesterday, they were dead last in the NBA in 3-point percentage. So they are not knocking down their threes at all. But they were 27th, as I recall, in 3-pointers attempted. So they're not taking that many threes. They're not making that many threes. I mean, on the surface, that's not a bad thing. They know their weakness, and they're going to try to play to their strengths, which is attacking the paint. They were first in the NBA in points in the paint. So obviously we know they're playing to those strengths. But you know what? When you play against these better teams, you're going to run into some problems because they know now. Teams are figuring out that, hey, the Lakers are attacking the basket all the time. They can't shoot from outside. Teams are going to do what they can to really pack it in. And that's difficult for a guy like Lonzo Ball, who thrives off of spacing. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Lakers handle some of these better teams. And you mentioned their defense, and I am absolutely blown away. Hannah, you said you're not disappointed at all. I don't know if you heard this stat yet. The Lakers, as of right now, and this is why they've even won a few games, are 6th in the NBA in defensive rating. 6th.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's incredible. I mean, do you know what they were last year? They were dead last.
Yeah, they were dead last. Yeah.
Dead last year in defensive rating, and they are 6th overall this year. So let's take a moment and talk about that. What is it that you see? Is there any particular player that you think is really doing a great job on this, or is this more of a team thing?
I think it's overall a team thing, but I think also bringing in KCP has really helped on the defensive end. Also, I've been really impressed with Kuzma's defense. But what I've seen from the Lakers that's been different this year defensively, as in previous seasons, just they're communicating much better. They're switching on defense better. I think they're making an overall effort on defense. Whereas before, I don't think they had a lot of energy on defense. They weren't really paying that much attention to it. This season, you can really see guys are really trying on defense. And the transition defense is also something that I've been very impressed with. The last few seasons, it was just like layup central. And guys are just, blowing past them and running, to the rim. And there was just no stopping them. And this season, they've really been able to get some stops in transition, I've been impressed with it.
Yeah, you know what? They are definitely competing on that end. And even when they lost Larry Nance Jr., I thought, that could be a big problem.
Yeah.
And so far, like you mentioned, Kuzma, a lot of people don't point to him being a good defender. Giannis Antetokounmpo had his way with him a couple of times, but still, you know what? He competes hard on that end, and he does everything he can. And you can see him, he doesn't block a lot of shots. He doesn't get a ton of steals, but he gets his hand in the face of shooters consistently, time in and time out. They try to shake him, they try to get an open look, and he's right there with his hand up. And I think that's a real testament to his versatility, because it doesn't matter if it's Kyrie Irving hitting a crazy fall away, there's Kuzma's hand. If it's a big man in the post, whether it was John Henson against the Bucks or Antetokounmpo, who is just long and is already 7 feet tall, it didn't matter. Kuzma is right there contesting and putting a hand up. So I've been pretty impressed with him defensively. He still has some things that he can improve upon, but he's one of those guys that for right now, I think is a positive on that end of the floor, right? And how about Brandon Ingram too? You mentioned KCP, but what about the defensive chops that we've seen from Ingram this year?
Yeah, Brandon Ingram's definitely improved on his defense a lot. I think his main strength is that he's just so long. I mean, he just has the longest arms in the entire world, I feel like. So he's able to really get in people's face and really make a difference on defense. So I've been impressed with Brandon Ingram. Overall, I think the team's defense has been, I was very worried, actually, not going to lie, going into the season on the defense. And so far, I've been really impressed.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at their stats, you look statistically, and you think sixth best team in the league in terms of defense, you got to think, man, if they could just hit a few shots, if they could knock in a few threes, if you could find a shooter to add to this team or something, that this team could be pretty darn good. I mean, there's a lot of reason for optimism here. Now, is this for real? Are the Lakers really the sixth best defensive team in the NBA? I don't know. That may slip a little bit as the year goes on, and we'll see. I mean, they started off pretty hot defensively last season too, and then obviously that completely nosedived. But you got to be a little bit hopeful given what we've seen. So if they can maintain this level of defense and then start hitting some shots, I mean, this team could steal some wins here. So we're talking about that rough month of December. If they can keep defending at this level, we may see them in games that we're expecting them to get blown out of, right?
Oh, exactly. And even if they do slip a little bit in defense, so we end up, being 15th, best in the league, that's still a heck of a lot better than dead last.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I went into this season saying that, hey, if they can get to 25th, maybe 20th, I thought that would be incredible. That would be a huge jump. I never in my wildest dreams would have thought that 13 games into the season, the Lakers would be sitting 6th in defensive rating. I think that's just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely been the biggest surprise for me, but the most pleasant surprise for me so far this season.
Hannah, we gotta talk about Julius Randle just to shift gears here. But before we do, I gotta pause real quick to mention Pro Flowers, because I actually used Pro Flowers recently. My mom had surgery, nothing that was too big of a deal, but she doesn't live in the same state as me, so I wanted to send her flowers. I wanted to send flowers to the hospital for her, and I used Pro Flowers, and they were absolutely phenomenal, super easy to use, and the great thing is that it's fall right now. I love fall. It's one of my favorite seasons. And you can actually get bouquets that are all decked out in fall colors. So I sent my mom a fall bouquet from Pro Flowers, and they looked amazing. She loved them. They stayed fresh forever. She brought them home with her. They stayed on her counter, and she was commenting to me all the time about how wonderful her flowers were. So they really are the perfect gift for anyone excited about fall. It can be a birthday present. It can be a get well present like mine was. It can be just a happy fall thing. It can be an anniversary thing. All kinds of different things that you can use them for. Now, their best selling is cinnamon cider roses. That's a great option for a birthday. Or you can go with classics like 100 autumn blooms or a dozen autumn roses. All kinds of wonderful fall themes that you can choose from. And you can't lose on this because no matter which bouquet you pick, because you were listening to this show, you can get 20% off any bouquet of $29 or more. So they're guaranteed to stay fresh for at least 7 days or your money back, and you can pick the delivery date. So Pro Flowers gives you more bloom for your buck, big, beautiful flowers, more stems for your money, and long-lasting freshness. Do like I did. Go to proflowers.com, use that promo code Lakers at checkout. You get 20% off all bouquets of $29 or more. Again, go to proflowers.com, use my promo code Lakers at checkout. You will not regret it. They really do sell a wonderful, wonderful product. All right, Hannah, let's chat about Julius Randle, who has been in a topsy-turvy year. He is in a contract year. His rookie contract expires at the end of the season, and suddenly he is no longer the Lakers' starting power forward. Instead, he is their backup center. How has that transition gone for him?
It's been a little bit of a rocky road for Julius Randle this season. I'm actually starting to feel really bad for him. He was a guy who went off this summer and did everything that Magic and the coaching staff told him to do. He went and got in incredible shape. He, was practicing his outside shot a lot, what we were hearing. He was in the gym constantly. And then we hear, that he was obviously demoted to the bench. And not only is he coming off the bench, he's not playing very many minutes at all. And for some reason, I really like Nance and I obviously love Kuzma. But for some reason, the Lakers are just really deciding that Julius is just not their guy, and they'd much rather go with Nance and Kuzma. So I'm feeling bad for him. When he's in there, he's been really effective. Obviously, he did get off to that rocky start where I think a lot of that just came from, his pride was really shot coming off the bench, and he was really disappointed in that. But ever since then, he has been playing well when he's been playing. He's just barely playing any minutes.
Yeah, right now he is at 19.8 minutes per game. Last season he logged 28.8 minutes, so that is quite a drop-off. Now, I will say that he got more minutes against the Milwaukee Bucks. We saw Luke Walton did not go to Andrew Bogut as he did previously. So, Andrew Bogut has not been playing well. It makes all the sense in the world to feed those minutes to Julius Randle. So that's a positive development. I think we may see his minutes go up from here. But you know what? I think he's actually adapting really well to that backup center spot. And I think that the conditioning that we saw him undergo this summer, the physical transformation, is really starting to pay off. And I don't know if long-term his role is as a center. I don't know if you can start him at center because some of the big bodies in the league, DeAndre Jordan and guys like that, Hassan Whiteside and DeMarcus Cousins, those guys are just going to overpower him. But as a backup center off the bench, I've been actually pretty impressed with him. And I've been really impressed with the way that he's turned things around mentally. Because I'll tell you, I went to that the first win of the season in Phoenix. I was there in the locker room after the game, and I asked Julius what he could do to get more minutes, and he was really solemn, and he just said, it's not up to me. He barely played that game, or he said, that's not my decision. So it was clear that he wasn't too pleased with what was going on. But since then, it seems like he's gotten his head back together. We're seeing more bounce in his step. And I think you could argue that at times, he's been the Lakers' best player on the floor. So what does that mean for him moving forward, Hannah? Do you think he sticks around? Or I don't know if you saw that rumor from Adrian Wojnarowski the other night that he's probably not going to stay in LA. Do you think that's going to be the right move to make to eventually part ways with him?
I don't know if it's necessarily the right move. I would be pretty surprised if he was a Laker at the end of the season. just because I know we're desperately trying to get rid of Dang's contract, and I think he's a player that we're going to try to package with that for sure. And also just the fact that he's going to be wanting, a huge, probably $18 million contract next year. And I just, for some reason, the Lakers are really gung-ho over Nance, and I really like Nance, so I don't want to, talk too bad on that. So I just think for some reason the Lakers, kind of a little bit like D'Angelo Russell, have just decided that maybe Julius Randle is not their future, so I would not be surprised if he was traded.
Well, Magic Johnson did say that Nance is their secret weapon, so I guess you can't really talk bad about the secret weapon, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? We don't have to talk bad about Nance in order to speak positively about Julius Randle. I mean, both have their pros and cons, and both have been really good players over the last few years for the Lakers and everything, and they've had their highs and lows. But Randle in particular, you mentioned that you almost feel bad for him, and there is that kind of bit of empathy that you have to feel here, because Randle did spend the summer getting into the best shape of his life. He's preparing for, this is the most important season of his career to date. Right? This is the season that everybody's going to look at when they decide what value he has next summer. So his next contract is on the line here. Literally millions of dollars are at stake, and yet he's coming off the bench. So for his mindset, he can't be too pleased with that. He can't be too happy with the Lakers. So I kind of wondered, does he even want to stay? Do you think he would even want to stick around with the Lakers? We know he'll probably be a restricted free agent, but might he try to kind of force his way out somewhere else? Could you see that being a possibility?
Yeah, I can't see, honestly, why he would want to stay. Julius Randle has the potential to be not only a starter, but he could be a future star in the NBA, especially if he was on a right team and he was getting the minutes. So I don't know why he would even want to stay on the Lakers if we're not going to be giving him, first, if he's going to be coming off the bench, and if we're not going to be giving him, solid minutes, I don't know why he would want to stay, personally.
Well, look, if Kyle Kuzma is really the power forward of the future, and it's kind of looking that way, right?
Yes.
And Larry Nance Jr. already beat him out for that starting power forward slot. And right now, Randle's just getting the backup center minutes. He's not even really playing power forward. Originally, we thought he was going to be playing next to Brook Lopez a ton, but that hasn't happened much. So if he is relegated to that backup center role, that may not even be the job that he wants. Ideally, he probably doesn't see himself as a backup. None of these guys probably do. These are some of the best basketball players in the world. They're not going to look at themselves with any lack of confidence or anything like that. But you have to wonder if Randle's going to want to move on to someplace that will offer him a starting role. If the Lakers have decided that that's not going to happen there, or that he's only going to be able to be a backup, then maybe they do look to trade him. So you mentioned attaching him to Luol Deng, and that's going to be tough. I suppose it's possible, but any team receiving Randle also has to know that, hey, he's got to get paid next summer, and he's going to be a restricted free agent. Now, next summer's free agent market is projected to be very, very rough for the players. For the guys who are going to be free agents, there's not a lot of money out there at all, and especially a restricted free agent like Randle, he could have a really tough time finding a solid deal. This is part of the reason why the NBA salary cap guru Eric Pincus is a firm believer in Brook Lopez sticking around with the Lakers next season, because he thinks he's going to have a hard time finding a deal out there on the market. And Julius Randle could be in the same situation where he has a tough time finding a strong offer. So if you're a team trading for him, you know that you have to pay him. You know he's going to be restricted. He probably won't have a very strong market, but you never know. All it takes is one team throwing out a crazy offer, and suddenly you have to match this big offer for Randle because you just gave up something for him. So let's assume that there's nobody out there that will take Deng along with Randle. What would you be hoping for in return for sending out Julius Randle, say before the trade deadline? What would you be looking to get back if you were the Lakers, Hannah?
Oh, well, we need to try to get a good shooter then. If we can't package, Dane with Julius, at least we need to try to get someone that can give us consistent scoring. That'll be my number one priority.
Okay, so you want to try to find shooting, which makes a ton of sense because the Lakers are not a great shooting team right now. Hard to say exactly who would be available, of course, and there's lots of different teams you can look at. I also think that the Lakers may just look to try to get something that doesn't cost them anything. And by that, I mean maybe try to get a pick or something like that. Something that maybe, and Woj even hinted at this, maybe get like a first rounder that you could then package with Luol Deng and try to use that as a sweetener to eventually move him off the books. And all that is to try to free up cap space for next summer. So maybe they look for a shooter. Maybe they look to get a draft pick. Looking at it from Randle's perspective, is there any team that you think he'd be a really great fit with, that he would be excited about going to?
I don't know. I think for Julius Randle, he'd just be excited to go on any team that's going to play him big minutes. But I mean, possibly a team that's going to start him, honestly, because also this is something that I didn't even realize. He's only 22 years old. Right. I didn't even realize he was that young. I mean, I really think he has the potential to be a future star. And I feel bad for him, like we've been saying, because I think he deserves to play more minutes. And I understand, why he's not the Lakers. So I just think any team that would be able to give him the minutes, I think he'll be thrilled to go on it.
Well, Hannah, let me ask you this, because essentially the Lakers salary cap situation for next summer is this. They can get to one max slot. In order to get to two and keep Julius Randle, they would have to find a way to get someone to take all of Luol Deng's salary. So that means probably giving up multiple firsts and Jordan Clarkson. And even then, you're probably losing like Ivica Zubac, you're probably losing Thomas Bryant. You have to shed all those contracts. And then maybe you can bring back Julius Randle and get two max free agents. So it's going to be really difficult to do. It would be very, very hard. It's not impossible, and maybe the Lakers decide to go that route, but it would be tough. So let me ask this. If you are the Lakers, would you consider maybe trying, instead of having two max slots, would you consider only having one max slot if it means having enough money to keep Julius Randle around? Or do you think it's just not worth it if you're just going to use him as a backup center anyway?
I don't think it's worth it for the Lakers, honestly. I think we've already seen that they're gung-ho on Nance and obviously Kuzma. I mean, Kuzma has been averaging the most minutes out of any other player this season, so which obviously is fine with me because I love Kuzma. But, I mean, I don't see why you would try to do that. I think the Lakers want to bring in two top free agents next year, two top free agents next year. I don't think they're going to even try to get one and try to keep Julius, honestly.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're right. And I mean, I'm kind of surprised by how disappointed I am in that. From watching Julius over the years, he's always seemed like the guy who hasn't quite lived up to his potential and everything, and he's got his flaws. But there's something about the way he plays when he's really on that just kind of grows on you. He's just a monster in there, and he gets flying up and down the floor. And I think he'd actually be a pretty good fit for this team moving forward. The way they want versatility on the court. They want guys who can really get out and run. I mean, that's all Randle. His shot hasn't really come around just yet. But still, he can do some very positive things out there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that we may be seeing the end of Julius Randle here with the Lakers. So they probably will look to try to trade him before the trade deadline. And if not, then he goes into free agency as a restricted free agent. And maybe he's a fallback plan. Maybe if the Lakers are unable to land one of those big stars, then maybe they could bring him back. What do you think about that? Would he be a good fallback option if they can't get Paul George and LeBron James? Or is this season burning bridges by moving him to the bench and it's just time to part ways?
I don't know. That's an interesting question because I feel like if the Lakers aren't able to get two top free agents this coming summer, then they're not going to want to go into the next season with guys. They're going to kind of want to do what they're doing this season and just getting these guys on kind of max 1-year contracts and then try again for the next summer. So it would all just depend on it. And I'm sure Julius would want a longer contract or not. So I'm not sure about that. It's all just going to depend on who we can get and kind of what goes down this summer.
I almost wouldn't be surprised if he just takes the qualifying offer. Mm-hmm. If they end up, if they have to tender him the qualifying offer in order to make him a restricted free agent, which they almost certainly will if he's still on their roster, because they can always withdraw that qualifying offer if LeBron and Paul George say, okay, we're coming, right? They can always free up cap space by withdrawing that offer later. So I wouldn't be surprised, though, if Randle is unable to find an offer that's to his liking, a long-term deal, and he ends up just playing one season out on the qualifying offer and sticking around. I think that would be the most likely outcome if he's going to be on this roster next year. But given what we've seen from Magic Johnson and Rob Pelinka and how aggressive they are in trades and things like that, yeah, I would be surprised if his name wasn't coming up frequently as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, and I could definitely see him on the move, although his pending free agency will certainly hurt some of his value. But still, it's going to be interesting to see. He's definitely number one on my list at this point of guys to watch that could be on the move for the Lakers. And let me tell you some teams to look out for. There are not many teams with cap space, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some teams go essentially shopping at this year's trade deadline. They're going to look to add pieces via trade because they're not going to be able to sign guys. So like even the Brooklyn Nets, I mean, I know the Lakers just traded them D'Angelo Russell and Mozgov, but the Nets are running out of cap space. And so getting a guy like Randle might help them. And they do actually have like the Toronto Raptors first round pick next year. Now they're not going to want to give up a lot of picks or anything, but a late first, maybe the Lakers could get a hold of something like that for Randle, and a team like the Nets would then get Randle and get him going into restricted free agency. They would have his bird rights, so then they'd still be able to sign him. So it could be a win-win there. And there's a lot of different teams that are like that. So I think that's something to keep an eye out for. A team that doesn't have enough cap space to really go sign free agents next year, so they may look to get the pieces they need via trade right now. But anyway, Hannah, if you were to put a percentage on it, what percent chance do you think there is that Randle is a Laker next season?
Oh gosh, Randle's a Laker next season? I would say 10%, maybe even lower. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Lower than 10%. Okay, I was at about 25%, but maybe I'm a bit more optimistic on that. But yeah, 10%. I understand how you would get there, and we'll see. It's like I said, it's a little unfortunate, but if the Lakers can get a good return, then maybe it could end up being the move that they need to make. Before we wrap things up, Hannah, any last thoughts? You know, we haven't talked about Brook Lopez at all or anything like that. We have chatted quite a bit about Kyle Kuzma and some of the other guys, of course, Lonzo Ball. So any last thoughts maybe about Lopez or any of the other players before we call it a night here?
I mean, I'd like to see KCP start making some more shots consistently. That would be nice. He has kind of flashes, and Brook Lopez, he got off to that kind of awkward start, but he was playing well for a few games, so hopefully he can get back to that, because we definitely need all the scoring from those two guys, especially because they're playing, especially KCP, he's playing a ton of minutes, so we're going to need him to start knocking down some shots consistently.
Definitely. I would call KCP an optimistic shooter. Mm-hmm. He takes some shots that you, when you see him shoot it, you go, oh no, don't take that shot. That's a terrible shot. Sometimes he hits them, but yeah, we would love to see more consistency from him. Of course, the defensive end, I've been impressed. I think there's been a number of plays where he's been one-on-one with a guy's been on the breakaway, and then he sneaks in and gets a steal. He's been pretty good at that. It's almost like LeBron's chase down block. KCP has his chase down steal, where he just kind of comes from out of nowhere and strips the ball away. So yeah, definitely something that we'd like to see out of him, though, is a little bit more consistent scoring, and same thing with Lopez and really the whole team. I mean, we'd like to see a little bit more consistency on the offensive end. All right, well, you know what, Hannah? We have covered a ton of different topics here. We've bounced all over the place. I think we've talked about just about everything that Lakers fans could ever want to hear about at this stage of the season. Got a big week coming up. Hopefully the Lakers will pick up some wins here and get some momentum heading into what is going to be a long December. Thanks so much for coming on here with me, Hannah. Really appreciate you coming on and providing your analysis.
Thank you so much, Trevor, for having me. I'm hoping the Lakers can start a little mini win streak.
Oh, that would be wonderful. I mean, that would be great, especially after the Lonzo Ball triple-double. We want to keep that momentum going, and we want to keep the fan base feeling good about the team, because that's been a nice change when the fans can get excited about some positives. So yeah, let's get a win streak going. That's going to about wrap things up for us today, though. The Lakers do take on the Phoenix Suns on Monday night. Hopefully they'll pick up a win there. Should be a lot of fun. I'll be there to interview some of the players after the game. So I will do my best to get some info out of them and see kind of where their heads are at, because I am curious after that 3-game losing streak if that's kind of affected their morale at all or anything. So I'll be there asking those questions, and of course we'll talk about it on here on the Lakers Nation podcast. That's it for today. Don't forget to go to LakersNation.com for all things Lakers, and of course, rate, review, and subscribe to this show on iTunes. My name is Trevor Lane, and this has been the Lakers Nation Podcast.